Hi, I'm Jennifer Turliuk, and I'm practice leader of climate and energy AI at the Martin Trust Center for MIT Entrepreneurship and an MIT Sloan Fellow. So I think AI represents a really great opportunity to reduce emissions associated with climate change. An area that I'm really passionate about is the electrical grid. It represents a huge bottleneck in reducing emissions. For example, it takes 2 to 8 years to be able to add a renewable like solar or wind to the grid when project developers apply, and AI could potentially help with that. Recent advances in things like neural networks, liquid foundational models, and large language models could perhaps accelerate that process and also be able to do things like load shifting and peak shaving. So that, for example, when consumers come home, if 10 of them are trying to charge their EV at the same time at 6 p.m., instead of them all being charged at the same time, which creates a peak load that the grid may not be able to handle, they charge at different times throughout the night intelligently so that everyone wakes up with their car charged, and we don't need to add the hundreds of billions of dollars of physical grid infrastructure that is the current pathway we're on, but could instead potentially use the existing grid infrastructure, add more renewables, switch to electric, and reduce emissions. I envision a future where consumers can set preferences associated with their home in terms of the temperature, the electricity price, minimum and maximum they're willing to pay, what appliances they don't mind, what time they turn on, for example, their dishwasher or their washing machine, and which ones they want to choose when turn on, for example, their lights. In Australia, they implemented a water program where consumers could opt in to save money, and basically, how the way it worked is their laundry machines would then turn on at a time decided by the system. And many consumers opted into this because it allowed them to save money. I think we'll see things like that for consumers, which will allow them to save money on electricity and also for us to reduce the strain on the electrical grid so we can add more renewables and switch more to electric. So, according to my understanding, electric vehicles to power them takes almost as much energy as it does to power an entire house. So, that's a huge area where I think AI could intelligently determine when they're going to be charged because they don't necessarily need to be charged at a time when it's already peak demand for the grid. Most people come home, they charge them in the evenings, which is when energy usage is the highest. So, depending on the price scheme they're in, they're potentially paying the highest amount of electricity at that time. And also, they're putting a strain on the grid. So, I think electric vehicles is a huge area where AI could be implemented, and also for the potential for electric vehicles to be used as batteries themselves. Yeah, I think there definitely is opportunity for efficient scheduling of when cars will be used, which could also reduce traffic congestion and emissions associated with cars. I've heard of various programs where, for example, they have some workers come in on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and other workers come in on Tuesday, Thursday, and it rotates. And then there's also, of course, the opportunity for people being able to start later, like some people work best starting at 10 a.m. So if we could empower them to do that and do it in a way that reduces traffic and emissions, I think those are all really exciting societal opportunities. So, part of my work involves creating AI tools for climate innovators. We're piloting them in MIT's Climate and Energy Ventures class, which has had 60 spin-out companies and over $1 billion raised. And I think creating tools like this can be a great opportunity to empower people to think differently. Just as an example of a tool, we created a suite of policy tools that allows people to see what regulations and incentives apply to their business idea. So instead of combing through multiple 100-page documents, they can enter, solar cars in Massachusetts and see the exact regulations and incentives that apply. And we've heard from startups that have said, hey, I just hired a consultant to find this information. It cost $10,000 and took weeks, and your tool came to almost the same information within seconds for free. So I think being able to create tools like that, even through no code or low code software, will empower more people to be able to think differently and to be able to accelerate their progress as climate innovators. So I think AI can be involved along the process of creating a business, funding a business, or creating and implementing policies at every step. For entrepreneurship, there's a number of entrepreneurs right now that are hiring AI as their CEO, so to speak. And in some cases, having AI start the business from day one and then putting AI in charge of it. I'm not saying that's what every business should do, but some entrepreneurs have found great success through doing that, or even if not that, through involving AI in some way. I used to work in climate tech venture investing, and on the venture capital side, I've noticed that investors are using AI at every step of the venture capital process, from forming a thesis to investigating who the competitors are or researching a market to trying to make their decision about whether or not to invest, to writing their memo and then portfolio support. So I think it can be helpful through that whole way. And then for policy, I think it's really exciting to think about how could AI help us think up new policies, like using tools like what I mentioned, being able to see what policies are already in place and then what are some of the problems that we're trying to fix and what are some suggested policies that AI could suggest based on what's been implemented elsewhere, what the research shows is most effective, or what could potentially be most helpful in that geography. So those are some ways I think AI could be used to enhance entrepreneurship, investing, and policy. So if there's AI involved on the team, either as CEO or as, a member of the team, I think it's important to still be able to maintain the human's own independent decision making and thinking. I think one of the biggest risks of AI is outsourcing our decision making capacity, losing our decision making capabilities altogether and just basically putting the AI in charge. So I think the important conversations to have are, hey, what are the boundaries around this? Or what are our mission, vision, values? And have that be decided by the humans. And then have the AI available to help, follow that path and activate that path, but not necessarily take the humans down another path that they didn't initially intend to or don't want to go down. Yeah, it's really fun because the speaker that went on before me is someone who I've known virtually for a number of years, but had never spoken to in person. And he is part of Climate Interactive, which has created an amazing tool called En-ROADS that's a climate policy simulator in collaboration with the MIT Sloan Sustainability Initiative. And actually, I created a chatbot that interacts with En-ROADS. The En-ROADS tool lets you do things like sliders to say, hey, what if we increase energy efficiency or increase investment in renewables? How would that affect temperature and emissions? And I thought it would be great to create a chatbot that uses OpenAI's API to then be able to ask questions of the tool, like how does methane fit into the picture? Or how do I use this? Or what should I think about? Or what policies should I work on implementing for my country? So it's been a great collaboration to work with them. I created that chatbot and was able to pilot it this past week at COP29 in Baku with some decision makers and negotiators and see how they interacted with it. So seeing his talk today right before mine and meeting him was great to talk more about that collaboration and the potential for expanding it.